Hello everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I really hope you're all doing okay and having a great day and an amazing week. My name is Effy and today I don't look how I normally look in videos. I'm actually in my pyjamas. Great. I'm filming a declutter. We are decluttering my eyeshadow palettes. I did ask whether people wanted to see eyeshadow palettes and lip products together. I've just decided to do them separately because otherwise the video would be way too long. So if you want to see me declutter my eyeshadow palettes, there is a lot of eyeshadow palettes. Like the shelf above this one is normally filled with eyeshadow palettes, and this bit here normally has eyeshadow palettes in it, so there are quite a lot. But if you'd like to see me declutter them, please do just keep on watching. Give this video a big thumbs up. Let me know down in the comment section how you think I did, whether you think I could have done better. I've already filmed it, I'm telling you now I could have done better, but oh well, it's fine. But if that sounds interesting to you, then please do just keep on watching. If you enjoy this video, please give it a big thumbs up. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. I put up one video a week and it's always makeup content, so if that sounds like your type of thing, then this is the place for you. But other than that, I'll let you get on with the video. Enjoy. It is time to declutter my eyeshadow palettes. This is a completely different angle to the one I used last time. I just keep mixing it up to try and figure out the best one. I probably should have done that before I started filming all of the declutters. But oh well. Let's make a start. I have all my eyeshadow palettes in front of me on my desk. I'm going to be showing them one at a time-ish, and we'll go from there. I will be doing swatching. Hopefully you can see the swatches a bit better. I know my swatching wasn't great in my last video, but I have a bit more space to sort of show you here. So let's make a start. This is going to be in no particular order because, like I said, they're all just piled up on my desk. First up, we have two e.l.f. bite-size quads, but we have Berry Bad and Acai You. Honestly, I don't reach for either of these, which is really bad, but I do quite like them. They are really good quality. If I just swatch this shade and this shade, they are really, really good quality and super, super cheap. So I think I am actually going to keep hold of these and try and use them a little bit more. This is one that can go. This is the Bourjois Volume Glamour Eyeshadow Palette. I tested this in my testing Bourjois makeup video and I just didn't really vibe with it. They work fine. The shimmers aren't great. They don't really do anything. So yeah, this one can go. This one can also go, and I hate that I'm letting this, oh god, you can see me, I'm not wearing any makeup. I hate that I'm letting this go because it is a really, really nice palette and the mattes work really well. The shimmers aren't amazing. They don't really do a lot, but they look nice, and I could always use different shimmers from a different palette. But I've just had this for so long. It was in my project pan last year and I didn't get enough use out of it. As you can see, I didn't hit pan on any of the shades. Also, the clasp has broke on it, so I feel like it's not airtight anymore when it's shut. So I'm just going to let this one go. It is a shame. These are really good palettes. I'm pretty sure they're like under £10 and they work really nicely. This is the Rimmel Magnifies Spice Edition, again from my testing Rimmel video. And again, I think I'm going to let this go. I just don't reach for neutrals that often. I only really wear them for work or occasionally if I want to tone down a look when I'm like going out. But this isn't one that I reach for. The shades are nice and they work well enough. I just have these shades in other palettes that I would much rather reach for, so this one can go. This one is the W7 Romanced palette. It is a dupe of the Anastasia Beverly Hills Soft Glam palette. I'm trying not to show my face in mirrors because I don't look great. So I'm sorry if you do catch that. I actually really do like this palette. It was very kindly sent to me by W7. And I actually think it works really nicely. Considering how inexpensive W7 is, this is a really nice palette. And honestly, I'm never going to buy the Anastasia Beverly Hills one because they're so expensive. I have two ABH palettes in my collection currently and I don't use them enough to validate buying a third one, especially not a neutral one. So this one can stay. The Wet n Wild Coffee Cat eyeshadow palette, I actually really, really like this. If I do go for a neutral palette, this is one I would reach for. It also smells like coffee, which is really nice. But the mattes are super pigmented. Even the shimmers, they're not like the best shimmers in the world, but they work really nicely. And as you've probably already seen, a lot of my neutral palettes are these sorts of shades. So this is definitely one that gets a lot of use, so this one can stay. This is the Barry M Sweet Caramel palette. I actually really liked this when I tested it. It works amazingly. The shimmers are gorgeous, like super stunning. Barry M is also very inexpensive, so I'm very happy about this palette because look at those shimmers. Stunning. The mattes, meh, don't really care. The shimmers are enough to sell me. So I'm going to keep this. And actually, I want to test more from Barry M. Also, this packaging is completely recyclable because it has no mirror and is made from cardboard. The L'Oreal I Go Wild palette. Again, another neutral palette that I don't reach for very often, but the shades are nice and the shimmers actually work quite nicely as well. Again, it's the sort of shades that I typically tend to go for when it comes to neutral palettes. So again, I'm going to keep hold of this one. I don't reach for it very often, but I should try to. Especially the like reds and purples. It's going into autumn now. They might get a bit more use, hopefully. Huda Beauty Emerald Obsession palette. I actually quite like this palette. It is small, but I love green eyeshadows. And there's only 3 mattes and I don't really like this one. But these 2 mattes work fine and the shimmers are gorgeous. So I'm going to keep hold of this palette because I do love my green eye. Okay, those swatches are terrible, but I do love green eyeshadow and this is a good option, especially if I want to take a green eyeshadow palette on holiday or something. The swatches have not come out great. The shimmers look beautiful. But yeah, I'll keep hold of this one because, again, it's quite small. It doesn't take up space. You can't get these anymore. I wish she'd bring these back. Maybe revamp them. But yeah, keeping that. Really like it. The Lottie London Ibiza palette. Again, not really something I reach for regularly just because the colours are a bit out there. But it does work really nicely, and Lottie London is a brand that I actually really like. There was a time when they would send me PR, but then I stopped doing YouTube for ages and they gave up on me, which is understandable. But this didn't come in PR, I bought this myself, but it's really nice. And I have another one of their palettes here, which they did send me. This is the Envy Me palette, and again, greens, really like it. The matte shades I really like as well. It has depth, it has blending out shades, it has really nice shimmers. I really like both of these palettes. I'm going to keep both of them because I really do love Lottie London and I really hope to get my relationship back with them now that I'm posting a bit more regularly. Colourpop High Tide palette. This is my only Colourpop palette and I do really like it because, again, it's those sort of greeny blue shades that just make me excited. And this works really, really nicely. Little bit of cake back there. It's such a gorgeous palette and I don't actually have many shades like these. These are quite unique to my collection. So I'm going to keep hold of this. I do really like this palette and I really liked what I tested from Colourpop. So I should probably do another test in Colourpop at some point. Maybe next year, we'll see. The NYX Ultimate Shadow Palette in Festival. I think they've changed the packaging on these, but this was very kindly sent to me by NYX. Again, another brand that I did have a really good relationship with before I dropped off the face of the internet. And I would like to get that good relationship back, but we'll see how it goes. This palette is beautiful. The mattes are stunning. Let's do a shimmer as well. We'll go for this one. The palette works really, really nicely and I don't reach for it, unfortunately, but it is really nice. Part of me thinks I should actually let this go just because I know if I want colours like this, I have other palettes I can dip into. For example, the Beautybay Sunset Horizons and things like that. So, oh, but this is my only NYX palette. I'll keep it because it's my only NYX palette. But next year when I do my declutters again, if I have another NYX palette, I'll let this one go. But this one can stay for now. The Doll Beauty I Heart Doll palette. This is a completely matte palette that I don't think they sell anymore. But it does work really nicely and it has really nice tones in there. And if you don't watch my channel or if you haven't watched it in a while, you will not know, but I generally tend to go more pink. There was a time when I was leaning more orangey browns and I still am a little bit, but pinks really do have my heart and I wear them fairly often because I think pink looks good on my skin tone. So I'll keep hold of this. Again, I don't think they sell this anymore, so we'll see how much use it gets, and if it doesn't get much use, I'll get rid of it next year. The Beautybay Utopia palette. It's a very pretty palette, very bright colours, and honestly I don't have anything like this in my collection because I don't have anything this bright, to be honest, but I just don't reach for this palette. And to make myself feel a bit better, I do actually have the Beautybay Brights 2.0 palette that I haven't tested yet, but it will be coming on my channel. So I think I'm actually going to get rid of this because I just don't reach for it. It is really nice. I took it to a few festivals. I just don't reach for it. It can go. The Collection Ibiza Sunset Eye Palette. I actually took this with me to work the other day. Well, I was in work, but I was meeting friends after work. I did my makeup in the bathroom of work afterwards. And it worked really, really nicely. The shimmer's not my favourite. That's a shimmer there. I did take a glitter eyeshadow to use with it, and I used that instead. But actually, these tones are really nice. And I reckon if I made this like my everyday palette, I would get through it pretty easily. So I'll keep hold of that. The Beautybay Pastels. A really nice palette. And I use it for my mirror at the moment when I'm doing videos. And when I'm just getting ready on the daily. But I don't use the shadows. Make Me Up Misser loves this palette and swears by it for blending out colourful eye looks. And I tried to keep it for that, but I just don't. But I'm going to keep hold of it and I'm going to make a dedicated effort to use it more. I promise. And then if I don't use it by next year, it can go. The Morphe 9T palette. This was actually a friend's and she gave it to me. And along with that collection palette, I also took this one to work and used them together. And it does work really, really nicely. Again, the shimmer's not my favourite, but when it comes to neutral looks, I generally want an interesting shimmer anyway, so I'm happy using a glitter eyeshadow. So I'm just going to keep this because it actually works really nicely. And I use like the dark brown as like a liner, or the black, I can't remember. But either way, I really enjoyed the look that I did. The Escape Pod by Kaleidos. I love this palette. I haven't used it much recently, but for a while it was my go-to palette. The shimmers are unbelievable, and this brown shade, the first brown, is gorgeous. I actually really like doing neutral to cooler toned looks using like these shades and then one of the shimmers on the lid, because the shimmers are gorgeous. I don't think you can see them very well, but they are absolutely stunning. And I need to make more use of the colourful shades, but realistically this bottom row, never thought I'd be saying it, but this bottom row of neutrals is amazing. The shimmers are just beautiful. This is obviously staying. Switching it up and going for a much bigger palette. This is the P. Louise Watch the Queen Conquer palette. We have the pink side and the yellowy reddy orange side. This is staying. I actually really like this palette. I used it in a recent video and I need to use it more because it is absolutely stunning. Those are 3 shades from the yellowy side. The mattes work amazingly. Oh yeah, it opens up and has a chessboard on it, which isn't very useful and actually rather annoying. But I need to use this palette more. I do absolutely love it. The mattes and the shimmers work amazingly. Like, there's no fault to this palette. I just need to reach for it a bit more. But it's definitely going to stay. Makeup by Tammy Revolution Tropical Twilight palette. This was her 3rd collab with Revolution. And as you can see, I have hit pan on this shade. I think that's the only one. But I have hit pan on a shade. I don't think you can see it. Very, very small just there. I used to use this palette a lot, like a lot, and I just don't anymore, but I do love it. I think the problem with this palette for me is that, and this isn't a problem with the palette, it's a problem with me. Tammy has a much darker complexion than I do, and therefore it would make sense for her palette that she created to work for darker complexions, and it does. And it does work for lighter complexions as well. I just find that a lot of the darker matte shades, particularly in this colourful row, they just look the same on my skin tone. Like, they just look too dark. Like, the dark blue and the dark green pretty much look the same on my eyes. The 2 purples pretty much look the same on my eyes. A lot of the browns look the same on my eyes. So I just don't use it because of that. But I am going to keep it and give it a bit more of a chance, because I did really love it. I've created loads of looks using it. Just to make a bit more space, I've actually brought 3 palettes over here to sort of look at all at once. This is the W7 Mardi Gras palette, which is a dupe of the Stacey Marie, which is the palette underneath. I actually really liked this palette, to be honest. I think it works well as a standalone palette. If you're comparing it to the Stacey Marie palette, maybe not as much love for it, but I actually think as a standalone palette it's not bad. The mattes are a little bit chalky and the shimmers aren't amazing, but I can create looks using this palette and that's all I really want. And to be honest, I'm going to talk about the Stacey Marie palette after this, but I don't like the shimmers in that palette either, so it doesn't really bother me that I don't like the shimmers in here. Overall, I actually think this is a really nice palette and I'm going to keep hold of it. It might not get loads of use, and if it doesn't, I can get rid of it next year, but some of the shades are absolutely gorgeous. That one's stunning. So I'll keep hold of it for now and try and do some more looks using it. I think on the whole, I generally need to start doing more creative looks because a lot of my palettes just get neglected. This one is the Stacey Marie. Like I said, the shimmers in here aren't my favourite. Actually, this is the same shimmer that I just swatched, so if I put them next to each other, they're very, very similar. This one is the Stacey Marie one, this one is the W7 one. Very, very similar. Yeah, I actually like both of the palettes, so I'm going to keep both of them and just try and generally get a bit more use out of all of my bright palettes, but this one is really nice. I think I got this on a discount. I don't think I would pay full price for it, but it is really nice. And again, Make Me Up Miss raves about it. But again, I don't see why. I do like it. It is a nice palette. I just don't reach for it enough and I really should try to. And then we have the Carnival 4 palette, the Antidote, which actually I prefer. I didn't think I would. When I saw pictures of it, I thought it was going to be terrible. But the neutral browns I really like. The warmer browns I really like. The shimmers I prefer. I haven't really used the greens, which is surprising because I generally love greens. But this is such a nice palette and I do need to use it a lot more than I do currently. But I do quite like it. Out of the two Carnival palettes, I definitely reach for this one more. I just think I could reach for it even more than I already do. The Urban Decay Naked Cyber palette. This was a gift from a friend and therefore it does have sentimental value. However, I just don't reach for it. It only has 3 mattes, which is this shade here, this shade here, and this shade here. And they do work nicely. I just struggle with what to do to it. And the shimmers are nice. They're not like my favourite shimmers in the world, but they are nice and they do work well. So yeah, I'm going to keep this because I do sometimes reach for it very occasionally, and I reckon I can reach for it more because I do quite like doing looks that's just 1 or 2 matte shades through the lid and then an interesting shimmer. Sorry, 1 or 2 matte shades through the crease and an interesting shimmer on the lid. And this palette is ideal for that, so I'm going to keep hold of it and try and use it a bit more. The Rude Cosmetics United Shimmerden palette. This was very kindly sent to me by Rude Cosmetics. I won a competition that Tammy held and this was part of the prize. I love this palette. It's fully shimmer, no mattes in here. And I think that's the problem with it, is that I just forget to use it. My arm is very stained. I just forget to reach for this palette. But like I said, one of my favourite type of things to do when it comes to makeup is neutral browns through the crease and shimmers on the lid that are a bit more interesting, and this has tons and tons of interesting shimmers. I just forget about it. And the shimmers do work really, really nicely. Like, they genuinely work so well. I'm just swatching all of them at this point. I really need to reach for this more, and I'm going to challenge myself to do that. The Do Colour Tropical palette. This was very kindly sent to me by Do Colour to test out, and I've only used it once, which is bad of me. I should really use it a lot more. Maybe I used it twice, I can't really remember. But I do quite like it. The shimmers are nothing special. This actually reminds me a lot of like BH Cosmetics. In terms of their, like, what was it, the Ticket to Brazil palette. It reminds me a lot of that. And this palette does work really, really well and it has really good colours in it. And I'm going to keep it, of course. I just need to reach for it more. That's really the theme of this video. But I reckon I can. Basically, I'm keeping palettes that I think I would use if I got back into my makeup, which is what I'm trying to do, is get back into my makeup and do more fun looks. And I do think I could use this one. He Who Must Not Be Named Jawbreaker palette. Again, this was a gift from a friend. It was like a birthday present. So again, sentimental value. And I do love this palette. I did like a 3 looks 1 palette video with it, and I liked all of the looks that came out of that video. It works really, really nicely. The pigment is amazing. They are soft, they are buttery. The shimmers work well. I kind of wish there was a few lighter shimmers. Like, a lot of the shimmers are quite dark, like these ones down here. The pink is quite dark. I wish there was some lighter shimmers in here. But other than that, I actually think this is a really, really nice palette that you can create quite a few fun looks with. I just need to use it more. And also, are we liking Jeffree Star now? I know he's back on the internet. Are we avoiding him still? Can somebody let me know? Basically, can I use this palette on my YouTube channel or not? Thank you. Beautybay Jade Thirlwall palette. I'll be honest, I have quite a few of these £42 palettes from Beautybay. You're going to see them in a moment. This is my least favourite of them. Nothing against Jade from Little Mix. I find her quite funny, to be fair. But I just prefer it when these sorts of palettes have a colour theme to them. And this one kind of does. It has like the warm shades and the cool tone shades. And as you can see, the formula is stunning because it's Beautybay, and Beautybay is amazing when it comes to eyeshadow formulas. But I just wish there was a bit more, like, almost like editing of the colours. I almost wish it was a bit more edited down, but I do really like it and it does work well. And again, neutral cool tone browns I love. So this palette does get used. It's just my least favourite. So I'm going to keep it, but it is my least favourite of the Beautybay £42 palettes. Makeup Obsession Kaleidoscopic Dreams. This was a collaboration with Tiffany Illuminati. That's her name on Instagram. Really good palette. Really good rainbow palette. Works beautifully. The mattes are amazing. Shimmers, not my favourite. I just think they're more like topper shades. And I actually quite like topper shades now, but when I got this palette I didn't. And I think because of that, I just don't use it because I had that bad first impression. But actually it looks stunning. Again, if I get back into my makeup, which I'm hoping I will, I think this is a palette I will love reaching for. And actually, the silver and the gold are stunning. Like, this is probably the best silver I've ever tried. It just is beautiful. So I'm going to keep it and try and use it a bit more. I've just pulled out all of my remaining Beautybay £42 palettes. I have Midnight, Earthy, Bright and Berries. And they're not going anywhere because I love them. This is Midnight. It's blue and purple. Like I said, I like it when they have colour schemes. My only issue with this palette is, again, I wish there was some lighter shimmer shades because the shimmers are stunning. So are the mattes. Everything works beautifully in these palettes. It's Beautybay, of course they do. I just wish there was a few lighter shimmers just for personal preference reasons, but it does work beautifully and the shimmers are stunning. So that is the Midnight palette. I love it. These obviously aren't going anywhere. They're some of my favourite palettes. If I want to do a blue look or a green look or a pink look, I will go to these 9 times out of 10 because they are just phenomenal. They are some of the best palettes I own and I highly recommend them. I think they're like £25 each, but they are very often on discount, so if you can pick them up, pick them up. And like I said, I do have the Bright 2.0 and the Fiery 2.0 to test as well. The Earthy palette, this one is more greens and browns. Obviously, I love it. This shade here, wait, where's my favourite shade? Moss Lime. This shade here is my favourite shade and it is probably my favourite green shimmer that I own. And it is also in the Wilderness palette, so you'll see it again. But I do absolutely love it. The Beautybay formula is just unmatched. Don't get me wrong, some of these shades a little bit powdery, a little bit crumbly. Oh, that green is my life in a shimmer shade. But this palette is probably my favourite of the 4, or the 5 if you include the jade one. I love it. I just love green eyeshadows. I think there is green eyeshadow that suits everybody. You just need to put the effort into figuring out which ones they are. The Bright Mattes. Yep, this is a fully matte palette. I have hit pan on this shade here. Can you see that? Yep, a little tiny pan. And I think I can hit pan on more of these shades. This would be my go-to rainbow palette if I did rainbow looks ever anymore. It is fully matte, as the name suggests. They're a little bit powdery. Not powdery. I don't know how to describe it. Like thick, I guess, if that orange is mixed with the blue. But like, they're a little bit, they're very buttery. And I think that's part of it. They just work so well. They have so much pigment in them. And I think if I get back into my makeup, this palette will get a lot more pans in it. And I think that should be my goal for 2024, is to hit pans on more of these shades. And then finally, the Berries 42 pan palette. This is the Pink Purple palette. I actually really like pink eyeshadow. I actually really like purple eyeshadow. I kind of wish there was a bit more purple in this palette. Again, with this palette, I wish there was some lighter shimmers, because realistically, there's only like this one and this one. And I kind of wish there was some more, but there isn't. But that's fine, it doesn't bother me, I'll keep using it. It still works beautifully. Stunning. Yeah, again, love this palette, use it fairly often. And I'm gonna keep it, obviously. Of course, why wouldn't I? But on that, I have the Mini Berries. This is the 16 pan palette. And every single shade that's in here, I think, is in the 42 pan palette. So as much as I love this, and I truly do, I'm going to let this palette go because I have the 42 pan version and I simply don't need both. I'm pretty sure my friend might like this, or one of my friends, so I'll see if they want to have it. But this can go. The Rude Cosmetics palette that was very kindly sent to me. This is the Lingerie Wild Nights collection. This is a fully matte palette. And again, I really like it. I actually think Rude Cosmetics has really, really good formulas, really, really good value for money. They are a touch more expensive because they are from America, but I actually think these are stunning. I did use these, my fingers are stained, but I did use this palette in a recent TikTok that I filmed. It might not be up yet, but look at the pigment. Absolutely undeniably amazing. So this is going to stay. BH Cosmetics Summer in Saint-Tropez palette. I've hit pan on 4 shades in this, and this was a gift from a friend, and I actually think this is a really, 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 really nice palette. The mattes work amazingly, so do the shimmers. The shimmers are some of my favourite shimmers I've ever owned, just because they are so stunning and so unique. Oh, I was going to get rid of this palette, but now I've swatched those shimmers and I'm still in love with them. I'm going to keep this for 1 more year because of the shimmers. I can't really see them very well, but the shimmers are everything. The Beauty Crop Pina Colada palette. This was nice. I haven't used it since I tested the Beauty Crop, which was quite a while ago. They work well. My problem with this palette is like all of the shades, particularly the matte shades, are all sort of the same like depth. Like there's no variation really. They're all quite like bright and bold, and that becomes a problem when I want to blend them out. But the shimmers are fine. They're not like the best shimmers I've ever used. You know what, I'm actually going to let this go. Like, I'm sat here talking about it and I just don't feel the love, so this can go. MUA Tropical Oceania eyeshadow palette. This can go as well. I've had it since I started my channel. Like, testing MUA was one of the first videos I ever did. And this is a nice enough palette for the price. Like, this is such a cheap palette. And if you need a cheap palette, this is actually really good. I just have so many other palettes that I would choose to work with over this. So yeah, I'm gonna let this one. Lois Cosmetics Meet Me at Midnight palette. I love Lois Cosmetics, I really, really do. I haven't heard much about them recently, but this palette is not my favourite. I just don't really gel with the matte shades. They're all very, 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 very dark. But the shimmers are gorgeous. Lois makes the most phenomenal shimmers, particularly gold shades. Like, I have her other palette, which I'll show you in a minute, but the gold shades are stunning in that palette. And I really do like them. But I honestly haven't reached for this palette in the longest time. So I'm actually going to let this one go. Like, again, I'm sat here talking about it and I just don't feel the love. Meet Me in the Underworld palette, which I actually prefer. Although, again, the mattes just aren't my favourite. Like, this gold here, this is the gold. This is my favourite gold in my entire collection. And for that reason, and that reason alone, this palette isn't going anywhere. I do find the colour story in this palette a bit better for me. Like, I just prefer these shades. Again, I kind of wish there was some blending out shades. Like, they're all a bit dark. But if I use this with another palette, I'm not too mad about it. The shimmers are just everything to me, and the mattes are beautiful. Sorry, that's a really heavily stained finger, but this palette is stunning and I do really love it, so I'm going to keep it mainly for the gold, but also the other shades. Another small beauty brand is Charlie Betty Beauty, the Earth palette. This was the first palette I ever got sent by anyone, and it's a bit of me. Like, the greens, the browns, everything. I'm trying not to show you my face. There we go. The greens are stunning. I've had this palette for so long and it still just works beautifully. Again, another stunning gold. Yellow golds are something I really, really like. I think they really make a lot of looks pop. And this is no exception. I love it so much. I actually adore this palette. I really need to reach for it more. I feel like in my mind it's a green palette and then I don't reach for it very often, but I could easily use a lot of these browns for like everyday work appropriate looks. So I need to reach for it more. And I've created a lot of looks using this palette. I really do love it. Definitely going to keep it. Definitely going to try and use it more. Unicorn Cosmetics Angel palette. I wanted this palette for so long and I have barely used it. The mattes are beautiful. They work really, really nicely. The shimmers get a little bit hard pan and that makes it a bit harder to use, but I do love this colour scheme so much, and I really need to crack this palette out a bit more. It's obviously not going anywhere because I did want it for so long and I do really love it. I really need to test Unicorn Cosmetics a bit more. The XX Revolution, this is like velvet, which is really nice, but it is the Vortex palette. Looks like this. Honestly, I don't reach for it that often, but it is a really, really, really nice palette. Like, the quality is really, really good. The shimmers are nice. I do like them. They work fine. The mattes are, again, really nice. Really like them. They work fine. I just don't reach for this palette. I think because it's like only one colour scheme, it's a bit more difficult for me to come up with ideas, like new ideas, fresh ideas. But I do actually really like this palette. I wish, though, they didn't have this orange or this pinky shade, because I just don't use them very often. I think I have used them once or twice when I was like testing the palette, but overall I don't think they're necessary. But yeah, it is a nice palette. I'm going to keep hold of it. The I Heart Revolution Lemon Drizzle palette. I do not use this, so it is going to go because I've had it for a very long time and I always say, oh, if I don't use it I'll get rid of it. I'm not using it and it's still in my collection, so I am going to let it go. Yeah, I'm not going to swatch it because it's a pretty boring palette, but yeah, this one can go. The Tammy X Revolution Tropical Carnival palette, her first palette. It has been used and abused, and there are 5 pans in this palette. This is the most pan you'll ever see in any of my palettes, but I'm gonna let this go. I just don't reach for it anymore. It's very old. The shimmers aren't my favourite, to be honest. There are some unique shimmers, like this green and this one are very unique, and they just don't have enough shimmer in them for me. Like, they're very metallic. They're just a bit boring to me now. I used to love this palette though, as you can tell, but realistically if I want to do a rainbow look I'll reach for a different palette, so this one can go. Oh no, that was her second palette. This was her first one, the Tropical Paradise. This was in my project pan. I did hit pan on one shade. Again, this can go. I just don't reach for it. Again, the same with her third palette. These darker shades just don't really work too well on me. The browns I do quite like, and I do think they work well. The pinks I used to really love. And again, the shimmers are nice. Oh, I kind of wish I could have hit pan on a few more shades. But I'm not going to keep it just for that, because I know I won't do it. Particularly as I don't have a specific project pan running this year. I don't know if I'll do it next year. Maybe I will. We'll see. But yeah, I'm going to let this one go, which is a shame because I do really love it. Particularly some of these shimmers are gorgeous. But it can go. The NYX Cosmetics Gone Rogue palette. I haven't used this since I tested it, I don't think. But it's a really nice palette. The shimmers, again, another beautiful gold, work nice enough. Again, I kind of wish there was some lighter shimmers. The glitter, never really going to be my thing. The mattes work really well. And the one look I have done with this palette, I adore that look. I think it's such a good look, even if I do say so myself. So again, I reckon if I keep this palette and got back into my makeup, I would use it a little bit more. So I am going to keep hold of it. The Rose Metal palette, a lot more wearable, but she's not selling this palette anymore. But I'm actually going to keep it and try and hit pan on it. This was in my project pan last year. I made some heavy dents, but never any pan. But it is a really nice everyday wearable palette, particularly for me because it does give me those pinky options. So I'm going to keep hold of this, and I think I'm going to do a video of like products I want to use up, and almost like a project pan, but not quite. This palette is filthy. And I think I might put this palette in that, because I would love to hit pan on some of these before I give this palette up. Another Rude Cosmetics palette, I bought this one myself. This is the Roaring Twenties, the Reckless palette. Soph loves this palette, and I understand why. It's such a nice palette. The shimmers are gorgeous. That's a stunning shade. And the mattes also work really, really nicely. So again, I'm going to keep this palette and I'm going to try and use it a bit more, because I do think it is beautiful, and I do think I could come up with quite a few fun looks using it, because it does have quite a bit of variety in the colour shades without going too far. Like, it still has blending out shades, it still has medium tone and dark shades. I actually think this is a really good palette in terms of the colour story, so I'm going to keep it. My 3 Beautybay £20 palettes. I do have more of these. I have 3 that I'm testing at the moment. Videos on the way / already up, I'm not sure. The Sunset Horizons, this is the first one I got, and I fell in love with it and have been in love with these palettes ever since. Again, I kind of want to hit pan on some of these shades, and I think I could do it if I put the effort in. The palettes work amazingly, but what I will say is I feel like you can see the evolution of these palettes. I do think they get better the like newer they are. Not because this palette's old and like worn out or anything like that. I just don't particularly like these putty sort of shades. The mattes become a little bit less chalky. Not that these are chalky, but they just improve the formula as they go on. These aren't going anywhere. So that one's the Sunset Horizons, if I do them in order that they came out. Next is the Wilderness. I've hit pan on 1, 2, 3 shades in here. I reckon I can hit pan on more. Again, this lime shade that I adore. Again, I love greens. I love the blues in here as well, actually. I actually think they work really, really nicely. I would love to hit a bit more pan in this palette before I give it away. And I do still use this. Even though I have the earthy palette, I definitely still reach for this one, so that's really good in my opinion. Also in this palette, it has improved from here. Like, the mattes are a lot better than this palette, I think. But then they started using these like flaky shades that I don't get on very well with. But they work beautifully. They look stunning on like a swatch. I just can't get them to work very well on my eyes. But that's something I need to work on. And then the newest of these 3 is the Age of Opulence, which again I love. The colour scheme is a little bit less wearable for me. Like, I don't often go for blues and purples, but this is a really, really good palette. Like, I don't think any of the shades in here are flaky. I don't think any of them in here are putty shades either. Maybe this one, I'm not sure. And the mattes, even though this is a dark palette with purples and dark blues and dark greens, the mattes are stunning, absolutely gorgeous. This one probably has the best formula of the three, but the colour scheme just isn't perfect for me and what I look for. But I do still use it. I do think it's still stunning. I adore these palettes, and like I said, I have 3 more to test, and that just proves how much I enjoy them, because I keep buying them. Even though they're limited edition, which is super annoying, I do keep buying them. This palette goes nowhere, the Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde. I don't reach for it all that often, but when I do, I always love the look that comes out of it. The shimmers are phenomenal, like nothing else like them in my collection, and the mattes are just so beautiful. I kind of wish this palette went a little bit darker. It does have 2 dark shades, but I kind of wish there was a few more. But these shades are just to die for. And it's a very expensive palette, and I don't have a lot of super expensive makeup, so when I use this, it is a nice treat to myself. I love it. It's not going anywhere. The Soph Extra Spice palette, this was her 2nd collab. I used to adore this palette, and I used to wear it like religiously all the time, and I just don't anymore, and it physically hurts me because I know this palette still works well, like it still feels lovely, still performs just as well as it used to. So I'm going to keep hold of this one, mainly because I don't know if I'm going to keep hold of her other 2 collabs. So I'll keep hold of this one because I think this is my favourite of the 3. Her first collab. The clasp was broken on this one, but I have hit a lot of pan. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pans in this palette. It was in my project pan last year, and I think that's part of it. In my mind, in this palette, I prefer the matte shades. These sort of browns do it for me. They are amazing. The shimmers are nice and they work well considering how old this palette is. But if I'm keeping hold of this palette, it's mainly for the mattes. But the shimmers do look nice, actually. I chose a bad one to swatch there because it's basically my skin tone. I'll keep hold of this one for now. And if it doesn't get used, I'll get rid of it next year. The Revolution Pro New Neutrals Romance palette. I actually really quite like this palette, and I reached for it more than I was expecting to. The shimmers are nice enough. It does have a glitter, which I don't know why I've swatched because I'll probably never use. But the mattes work well. I can get like a really good look from this palette without a lot of effort. That glitter actually works a lot better than I was expecting it to. The mattes work well. I'm going to keep hold of this, mainly because I don't have many Revolution palettes left at the end of this, I don't think. And this one is a really nice one. And the colours work for me, like they're colours I would wear every day. So yeah, I might as well keep hold of it. Soph's 3rd collab. I already know I'm getting rid of this because I just think this is my least favourite of the 3. I thought I was going to love it because of how colourful it is, but again, the bright shades are all kind of the same depth. Like they're all very, very bright, which makes them a bit harder to work with. This shade here, Dreamy, is my favourite shade, and if I were to keep it, it would just be for that shade. But I just can't because I just don't use this palette at all. The first look I ever did with this on my YouTube, I loved. I actually really liked that look. I still do. Every look I've done since, I haven't liked, and that is the reason I'm getting rid of it. The Anastasia Riviera palette. I maybe have used this once or twice. I don't know if I've ever used it in a YouTube video. I don't know if I've ever posted about it on my Instagram. I'm going to keep it and try and use it because I do think this is a stunning palette and the formula is really, really nice. I just need to try and use it a bit more. And like I said, if I get into using my eyeshadow a bit more, maybe I will. But yeah, I'll keep this one. The Modern Renaissance. This was my friend's before it came to me. I have hit pan on 2 shades. I'm going to get rid of this. It's been loved by both me and my friend. It's been used a lot. The shimmers aren't my favourite. I wouldn't use them. I'd use shimmers from other palettes, or I'd use these and then put something else over it. The mattes I have in other palettes. This just doesn't call to me. It can go. The Artitude Cosmetics Colour Splash palette. Have I used this in a video? Maybe, I'm not sure. A rainbow palette. and the shimmers are actually really nice. I have used this in a video, I think. They're more like metallic shimmers, which aren't my favourite. I prefer something with a bit more dimension, a bit more glitter to it, but they work really nicely. So do the mattes. The mattes work really well. Pretty standard rainbow matte palette. I do have other rainbow matte palettes like the Beautybay Bright Mattes that I would reach for, but I do like having a smaller indie brand option if possible. The Phoenix palette, both of these palettes by NYX Cosmetics were very kindly sent to me. I think this might be my last palette actually. Yay. But these two palettes were very kindly sent to me. NYX Cosmetics is a beautiful brand. These two shades here are duochromes. So they look pink and blue, and then, don't know how best to show you the like shifts. Hopefully you can kind of see them a little bit. The pink one goes green and the blue one goes purple, but absolutely stunning. Let me actually put them on my hand. I think that's a really good way of showing the shifts. See, can you see? I think you can. Stunning, and obviously very pigmented and work very well. This is a beautiful palette. Again, it's got those sort of like cooler neutrally browns that I love. Some of the shimmers in here are also like very beautiful, and I love them. Final palette I'll swatch on a different hand. Absolutely stunning. This palette isn't going anywhere. Thank you so much, NYX Cosmetics, for sending it to me. But there we go. I'll only count up how many I'm getting rid of, because honestly there's too many that I'm keeping to count. I'm getting rid of 13. I don't want to count how many I'm keeping because it's a lot. But overall, I'm pretty happy that I got rid of 13. That's still a lot for me. Like, I love eyeshadow palettes, and getting rid of them isn't easy for me, so I am pretty proud of myself. I'm going to let Effie do the outro, but our next video will be lipstick, lip products and setting sprays, because I haven't done setting sprays anywhere else. But I'll see you in the next one. Bye. There we go. Like I said, I do think I could have done better, but it is what it is. Let me know down in the comment section how you think I did. Let me know if there's any eyeshadow palettes you think I should test, because I'm always open to testing new eyeshadow palettes. I do have a bunch to test coming, like a lot. Like, I'm pretty sure most of the videos the rest of this year are just going to be me testing eyeshadow palettes. So I will be building my collection back up just to knock it down again around this time next year. But if you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. I put up one video a week, and it's always makeup content, so if that's the type of thing, then this is the place for you. And like I said, a bunch of eyeshadow palette testing videos coming, so subscribe if you don't want to miss them. It's completely free, and the button is just down below. I'm very tired. I'm very hungry. I'm going to go eat something, and yeah, then I'm going to edit this video, and hopefully it'll be up soon. I hope you have a great day, an amazing week, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.